Am I the asshole for not making my wife cover up at home? Throw away account. So my 28M brother came over with his wife yesterday and spent the night with my 27F wife and myself. It is worth mentioning that I come from a Muslim family and my wife does not. When my brother and his wife arrived, my wife was just getting home from work, so she was wearing scrubs and her name badge. While I made polite conversation with my brother and Sil, my wife went to change clothes. It is also worth mentioning that my wife has tattoos, piercings, dyed hair and stretched ears. Very much your stereotypical goth girl. Once she was done, she came back into our living room in a tank top and a pair of shorts. My brother averted his eyes, but my sister-in-law couldn't stop looking at my wife. My wife has a tattoo from her thigh to her ankle on her left leg and a tattoo on her calf on her right leg. My wife finally noticed and asked my Sil, "Like the tattoo?" To which she simply blushed. My wife smiles and tells her, "You're fine, I'm used to the stares. You forget how many tattoos and piercings I have." My Sil and brother both asked her how many. She has 7 piercings and almost 20 tattoos. The evening continues and during dinner, the conversation turns to my wife's tattoos. My Sil asks if she's planning more and my wife tells her yes she is, as she's currently working on a full back piece. My brother rolls his eyes and continues to eat. Shortly after dinner we're getting ready for bed. It's worth mentioning that my wife sleeps in a shirt and PJ pants. At no point is my wife nude or semi-nude. Before we go to bed my brother comes into our bedroom and my wife is in the process of having me put tattoo lotion into the tattoo on her back. She has her shirt pulled up in the back but has her arms over her chest covering her breasts. My brother sees this and runs from the room. My wife is embarrassed but I tell her to not worry about it as it's his fault for not knocking. Once I'm done I go out to see what my brother needed. He tells me, "I shouldn't see your wife in a state of undress. You need to be a husband and tell her to cover up." My wife did not need to see her body. I did not need to see her body. I tell him he should have knocked and it's not my fault or hers. He and his wife left early the next morning. I've been getting a lot of phone calls from him and my parents saying my wife is a loose woman and she needs to cover herself. I tell them she doesn't and to leave her alone. My parents and brother now want an apology from us both. So, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Please keep standing up for your wife. Smiling face with tear. NTA. What grown adult doesn't knock on another adult's bedroom door while visiting? And then gets upset at what he saw? You and your wife get to be upset about that, not him. And if he doesn't like how your wife dresses in her own home, maybe he should just not be a guest there anymore. Not the asshole. Your brother owes you and your wife an apology for barging into your room without knocking. He's lucky y'all weren't having sex. If he wants to be all upset about her getting lotion on her back in her own room, that's his choice. And if your family wants to complain about a story they heard from someone else about a half-truth, that's also their choice. It's your choice to continue to ignore them or not. You're good. Carry on. Also, BTW, it's awesome to see that your response was to stick up for your wife. That's the way it should be. Apologize to no one in your family. Not the asshole. I should say I'm an Australian atheist and don't have insight into the cultural expectations of Muslims, so I might not be equipped to speak, but I don't think anyone should be made to feel like they should have to dress or behave differently in their own home, or really at all within reason. Edit. Also, someone saying you should make your wife do anything is problematic. Not the asshole. You wife did nothing wrong. You did everything right by standing up for her. And I love that you accept her for what she is. Not the asshole. Stand with your wife. She was not wearing anything revealing and was comfortable at her own home. She can wear whatever she wants and it doesn't make her loose. Athe asshole. I had my mill trespassed after she entered my home and fired my babysitter. I am a widower. I lost my wife, Ann 34, just minutes after she gave birth to our first baby, Sammy. She had a difficult pregnancy, so I took an indefinite leave 3 months before she was due. Sammy's 4 months old now, and before I went back to work, I told my mill, Sandra 56, about my plans and if she can recommend a nanny to take care of my daughter when I work. She offered to do it, nanny, for free. I told her she's free to come by anytime during the day if she feels uncomfortable with a nanny looking after Sammy, but she insisted on doing it herself. So I said yes and gave her a copy of the house keys. She comes 30 minutes before I leave for work, and when I come home, she stays for dinner and leaves after putting Sammy to sleep. Everything was fine for the first couple of weeks until I noticed that Sammy's not feeding as much. Her formula's barely touched. I asked Sandra about it and why Sammy's not feeding well. She said she's trying to breastfeed my daughter. At first I thought she was joking, then I realized she wasn't. She said Sammy needs to latch for a few minutes every day to activate her milk production. I almost lost it. I told her she cannot do that, and she needs to stop. She said she will, but I caught her again when I walked in my daughter's room and she was forcing Sammy to latch. I confronted her and told her she's no longer my baby's nanny. I didn't ask for the key back as she is still welcome to come visit anytime. I asked for a 1-week leave from work to care for my daughter and find a nanny. I found one, but 2 days after she never returned. I called her and she said my mother fired her the day before. I asked her to describe the woman and I was livid when I realized it was Sandra. She came in my house using her key and fired my nanny. I was about to call her when she showed up and said a convoluted story like how I hired an incompetent nanny, etc., etc. I told her to leave, but she refused and told me she's calling CPS because I am endangering my child. We argued back and forth before I called the police and she was charged with trespassing. I know my mill is grieving the loss of her daughter, I am too. But she crossed the line when she disregarded my wishes. She is very upset with me. My Sil and brother-in-law are calling me ruthless and I am now second-guessing myself. Have I taken it too far by calling the police? Am I the asshole? Edit. Thank you everyone for your advice and showing concern for Sammy. I called CPS to tell them about the situation. My mom is coming over to help look after my daughter and look at our options. She's a retired family law attorney. I do have a doorbell camera, but reading some of the suggestions here, I decided to up my home security system. Brother-in-law and Sil know the whole story and they also think that forcing to breastfeed Sammy was wrong. But they are angry at me for calling the cops on Mill and having her trespassed. They said it was unnecessary and cruel to do to a grieving mother. Not the asshole. Her trying to breastfeed your daughter without your permission is gross and completely wrong. Beyond that, she fired your nanny? I'd ask for your key back and set some serious boundaries. Not the asshole. Babies need to be fed. What your mill did isn't a small thing. Babies need to be fed. If you don't feed a baby, it will die. This comes firmly under danger to yourself or others. Your mill is an active danger to your daughter. Maybe call the mental health or crisis services program in your area, and find out what can be done. Mill may be having some type of mental health breakdown. If that is the case, there needs to be intervention, involuntary if necessary, but the police and legal system may be less appropriate than the mental health system. Get a restraining order on this woman. Move. Change the locks. Grief doesn't mean any of this. Oh my God. Not the asshole. Keep that crazy person away from your child. Who cares if it's their grandparent? Not only was that so disgusting, but she was also starving your child. Not the asshole. Your mill is not right in the head. A woman cannot just spontaneously produce milk if she hasn't been pregnant. She would have to have been on some pretty strong hormones for several months in addition to multiple times a day pumping in order to even start production. She needs to stay away from your child until she has gotten some grief counseling and started to get a grip on her loss. Change your locks and go limited contact to protect your child. My heart goes out to you for your loss. Good luck, op. Dude, you are the asshole in 2 different ways. First, for not going NC with mother-in-law for trying to breastfeed her granddaughter. Ick. That made my skin crawl just reading that. And then if that wasn't cringy enough, you allowed her to keep a house key? That mistake is completely on you. The breastfeeding was an absolute barring of access to her grandchild. You can't trust her with your daughter after that, full stop. Get a lawyer. You'll need one. And replace all locks on your house, along with cameras to cover 360 degrees around the outside if your house. Sorry for your loss. Best wishes and good luck. Am I the asshole for hiding in my room for the rest of the vacation after my fiancé dumped me in the pool? When I was 5 I almost drowned and I've been terrified of large bodies of water ever since. It's not something I talk about, so not many people know about it. We went on vacation with my fiancé's family. They all spent a lot of time swimming, sailing and doing other activities involving water. I avoided participating in any of these activities and would normally just read or spend time with my future mother-in-law as she also didn't participate. One morning my fiancé ended up dumping me in the pool. I was so shocked I ended up fainting. I felt awful when I woke up and I could barely form a sentence, but the doctor who came to check up on me told my fiancé I was just in shock and I needed to rest. I ended up hiding in the room for the rest of the vacation, even after I started to feel better. My fiancé tried to get me to eat with everyone else or to do something with him, but I kept saying no even though he kept apologizing and said he felt awful. Eventually, his cousin's wife came to see me and said I should come down and spend time with everyone since I was making my fiancé feel like crap and he was already beating himself up enough without me making it worse by hiding in the room all day. She said I was ruining the vacation for everyone by doing what I was doing and it was my fault for not telling my fiancé I was so scared of water in the first place. Am I the asshole? Trauma responses are 100% real, so I understand how you're feeling. But if you're planning to spend the rest of your life with your fiancé, you need to communicate with him and let him know important things like this. Keeping it all bottled in isn't doing you or him any favors. I would definitely look into some type of counseling to better cope with your trauma. His cousin's wife is an A and she needs to butt out. Soft esh. When you have a phobia, communication is key to preventing a triggering of it. You should have told him about it and the reason why long before you went on a vacation with lots of swimming. You were an asshole for failing to communicate this, but not for your response to being dropped in the pool. He was an asshole for dumping you in the pool even without knowing about your phobia. But now that he knows, it will hopefully not happen again. His family, who is saying your trauma response in ruining the vacation, are also aw. Less than it was my fault for not telling my fiancé I was so scared of water. Esh. Tossing people in a pool is asshole behavior regardless of whether they have water-related trauma. But you are engaged, and have never told your fiancé you had a near-drowning childhood incident that has left you with a significant phobia like this? WTF. Not the asshole. I don't understand how some people think it's funny to just grab someone and throw them in a pool without their consent. That's never okay. You never know if they have medical problems, can't swim, have psychological issues with water, or are maybe just on their period. Esh, not the asshole. You are having a trauma reaction. And honestly, dumping someone in the pool if they have not shown any signs they would enjoy such a thing is a bad move. But it's concerning that you cannot be open with your own fiancé about this trauma. That says either a lot about your relationship or how you are dealing with the trauma, and none of it is healthy. Info. Did you know you were going on a holiday with a lot of water-adjacent activities? I don't get why you wouldn't mention given the nature of the holiday. Am I the asshole for not wanting to raise my brother? When I, now 26, was 11, my dad left me and my mom for another woman. He had a child with her named Nathan. I have never met my half-sibling and I'm an adult now and Nathan is 14. His mom eventually left my dad and is prisoned for drug-related offenses. My dad died and now Nathan has no family. My dad put it in his will that I am now Nathan's guardian. I refused and the caseworker looked at me like I was a total poss. I rent with roommates and I work about 50 hours a week, so I don't even have time to raise my half-brother. The caseworker said that my brother was excited to move to California where I live, but I told her it's not going to happen and you shouldn't have even told him that. My mom agrees with me that I'm in no place to raise kid, but some of my relatives are acting like I am a monster because I'm not helping my brother out. It's not my fault that my dad left no other options for him and he has to go into the system. I don't feel like I am even in any place to help him out at this point in my life. Not the asshole. All of those relatives acting like you're a monster? They are free to raise your brother themselves. Not the asshole. You don't have an obligation to take him in. The relatives calling you a monster are free to take him in though. Your dad was wrong to appoint you as guardian. It's not fair at all to put you in this position and get Nathan's hopes up when you are not in a place in life or have the desire to raise him. Not the asshole. I find it weird that the caseworker pushed for you. One look at your circumstances would show that you were in no position to help anyone, much less raise a teen that you have never met before. You have roommates, you work long hours with no support network. What the hell was the caseworker thinking? Not the asshole. Not the asshole. If your relatives are so worried about him, they can take him in. Not the asshole. Blood doesn't make a family. Your half-brother will be better off with a guardian who wants him and capable of caring for him. Your dad should have consulted you before listing you as his guardian.